I was talking about Tomlin. That was my intro. He can't keep getting away with this. He can't, but he will, because he's Mike Tomlin. He is the king of cliches and saying something, but also at the same time saying absolutely nothing. We know the classics. The standard is the standard. It sounds cool, right? It sounds profound, but it means absolutely nothing. Or this offseason when he said, Kenny needs to be who we need Kenny to be. What? What? Like, what is that? Again, sounds cool. Means absolutely nothing. He pulled it off again, though, yesterday in his press conference. Everyone's waiting on pins and needles for what he's going to say about this quarterback one situation. Who's he going to declare the starter for this Seahawks game? So he did say it's Mason. As of right now, starting this week, it's Mason Rudolph. But he also left the door open for Kenny Pickett based off his availability and how he recovers from this ankle injury. So it's Mason. We got our answer, but at the same time, we still don't just yet because the real decision has yet to be made. You got to see how Kenny looks the rest of the week. Now, you know where I stand on this. It should be Mason. Ride the hot hand. He's given us something at the quarterback position in last week's game against the Bengals that we haven't seen in the last 2 years. 290 and 2 touchdowns, explosive plays, throwing some deep bombs, taking shots, but was also calculated where he wasn't putting the ball in harm's way consistently. You got to go with Mason. I think you do. He gives us the best chance to win this upcoming game, and he's earned himself the chance to prove that. Now, he could fall flat on his face. He could go back to the Mason that we remember from 2019, but he's earned himself that chance. KP8 has left the door open for Mitch whenever Mitch came in KP8's absence to ball out and potentially take the reins. I said if Mitch went off for 250, 3 touchdowns in multiple games here, then he would have the starter spot for the rest of the season going into the playoffs. But he didn't. He fell flat on his face. So Kenny, still not available. Mason gets a chance. He took the reins, man. He took the bull by the horns. And give him props. He's at least earned another week to show that he could be the guy for the rest of the season. And what does it mean for next offseason, 2024, if we go with Mason over healthy Kenny even? Like, what if Kenny is healthy? And shout out to the reporters because they pressed Tomlin on this. Tomlin gave us the Mason's QB1 now. We're basically in the same situation as last week with the Bengals, where we're going to start with Mason, see how Kenny looks throughout the week with the ankle. But ultimately, Kenny was ruled out. Mason got the start. So he said, yeah, we're starting this week off the same way. But then the reporters pressed him like, what if Kenny was healthy? And I'll give Tomlin props for this because he just said, I'm not going to speak on hypotheticals right now. And 2 reasons for that. If you don't have to give an answer right now, don't give an answer. I get that. You could legitimately wait these next couple of days out and get all the needed information you can have and then make your final decision, right? And also, just from like a gamesmanship standpoint, it's kind of smart too because the Seahawks might be preparing for 2 quarterbacks over there. They don't know who's going to be getting the start. So I'll tip my cap to Tomlin. Even though we wanted an answer as fans, he didn't have to give an answer. He kind of did, but again, he didn't because he still said the door's open for Kenny. We got to see what he looks like. I think, though, here's my guess. I think he is leaning Mason. That is my guess. I know I asked you guys this yesterday in the chat, did a little poll. Who did you want as QB1, Mason or Kenny? Who do you think will be QB1 for this Seahawks game? Because those are 2 different questions, 2 different types of answers, right? Who do you want it to be? Who do you think it should be? Who do you think Tomlin's actually going to go with? You know what I'm saying? I think it's going to be Mason, man. I don't know how you can look at how the offense was last week and just say, hey, let's go back to Kenny. At least just for this season. I'm not talking about 2024. Give Mason that chance. He's earned the opportunity. Who do you think will be QB1 for next week? Yeah, I asked you, who do you want? Now I'm going to ask you, who do you think it will be? Who do you think Tomlin will pick? Yeah, I'm seeing some of you guys in the chat. Clemsy says, need to go with the hot hand. That's what I'm saying. X Concepts was good, bro. He wants Mason. While you guys answer that, how about we talk about the signing we just had? Jalen Smith, another big name brought in. Yeah, like, if you look at our linebacker core right now, we got like the 2016, what would it be? 2017, 2018 All-Stars. We just brought in brought back Miles Jack. He was on the team last year. Signed Jalen Smith. We also got Blake Martinez, a dude that's, in the past was averaging like $140, $150 tackles every season. Like, if this was 2018, I'd feel really good about our linebacker core. We also signed Quan Alexander before the season too. So, like, we got some throwbacks here that are low-key still young. Miles Jack's only 28. Like, some of these dudes have been in the league for a minute. Jalen Smith, I think he's 28. Feels like he's been around for a while. And he's a name. He's a talent. But based off of a lot of the responses I'm seeing over the internet, a lot of the reactions, might be washed, man. I don't think we should get our hopes too high for Smith. It's not a bad signing at this juncture of the game because we need extra linebacker depth. And at least he kind of will know what he's doing. He could be in the right spots, especially if we keep doing the zone type of defense that we did last week against Cincy going forward. He could probably handle that, right? You look at his Cowboy years, one of them made a Pro Bowl, average, like, what is this? For those first 4 years, that's probably like an average of 120, 130 tackles a season. He's getting some splash with sacks in there, some forced fumbles, and then just fell off. Dallas traded him, I believe. I mean, he was on 3 teams in 2021. Dallas traded him, I believe, to Green Bay, right? And then Green Bay cut him. He ended up getting picked up by the Giants. Did a little stint with the Giants again in 2022. 88 tackles. But there is a reason Raiders cut him after only playing 1 game this year. Like, maybe it could be a mix of the fit not working out and who knows what else. Because Smith says he feels like he still got it. I know every player is going to have confidence. My hopes just aren't really too high for this signing, unfortunately. It's a cool name, Jalen Smith. He's got good pedigree. Like, coming out of college, he was an absolute beast. He would have been definitely a first-round pick. He was probably the best linebacker coming out when he was going into the draft in 2016. But he tore his ACL in the final game, had to sit out his whole rookie season. And again, give him props. He came back and was good early on with the Cowboys. Like, he was solid. I think he exceeded a lot of people's expectations for what he was able to do. But I think that knee injury, just over time, I think he's lost some of that athleticism that made him a household name early on. So it's just unfortunate how his career's played out. Because if you look at some of his college highlights, man, like, he was phenomenal, flying all over the place. But yeah, now he's here, getting picked up to the Steelers practice squad with 2 weeks left. Not bad for depth, but again, my hopes aren't too high. My thing is, why don't we take a shot at Reuben Foster? We got to see him last year in Pittsburgh here. In Pittsburgh. He was on the Pittsburgh Maulers in the XFL and played solid. Outside of the injuries, like, he was legitimately a solid linebacker. He's a talent, former first-round pick. I don't know why we don't take a chance on him. And he's played, I was going to say he's played more recently than Jalen Smith, but Jalen Smith did play a game this year. But with how the USFL schedule, no, did I say the XFL? I meant USFL. USFL for the Pittsburgh Maulers. With how that schedule set up, like, Foster was playing into the summer. It was like July when that championship was. So he's got the needed rest up at this point. I don't know why we don't take a shot with him. The Dolphins tried him out like a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I think Reuben Foster would be a fine fit. I wanted him whenever we were talking about potentially signing Quan Alexander in the offseason. I thought bringing in both Foster and Quan would have been a good idea. But obviously, he's not on the roster right now. We got Jalen Smith. We got the 2018 All-Stars at inside linebacker right now. Now, Miles Jack, great signing. I think that was a much-needed signing. Blake Martinez, I'm still so-so on him. We'll see how he finishes up this season because I think he's going to get an opportunity against Seattle. Didn't look the best in his debut in a Steeler uniform. But with Landon Roberts being out, we just need bodies out there. Mark Robinson's been struggling. Michael Walker's been up and down. Just tough, man. Just tough with this inside linebacker situation because I was so high on Cole Holcomb and Quan Alexander. They were playing awesome this year. They were playing awesome. Now, Landon Roberts, he's out. Just a bummer. Before I get into this Steelers-Seahawks preview, let's also preview what the Steelers need done from other teams around the league to help our playoff chances. I got an official Steelers rooting guide. I think this is the simplest one that I found here. Week 17 rooting guide, December 28th to the 31st, because the first one's going to be on Thursday night. Jets versus the Browns. We want the Browns to lose, and that would involve the Jets taking them down in a revenge game against Joe Flacco. Jets passed up on Flacco, bringing him back. Flacco ends up going to the Browns. Let's see who's right. Hopefully the Jets defense could make it an ugly game. Zach Wilson's not playing, but it's Thursday night. Browns, they're at this point, too, where they're so close to the playoffs. The expectations are high. You're just hoping the Browns do Browns things and somehow fumble this opportunity. They lose out. That would be incredible if they were to lose out. Patriots over the Bills. We need us over the Seahawks, obviously. Raiders over Colts. This one's got a chance, a serious chance. Raiders are playing some good ball recently, and their playoff hopes are still alive. So they have something to actually play for here. Colts, rough game against the Falcons last week. Panthers over the Jaguars. That's possible. Trevor Lawrence might be out with that AC joint sprain on his shoulder. Panthers didn't look too bad last week. Titans over the Texans. CJ Stroud. I saw that he was practicing recently. Or at least today. Yeah. He's back at practice today. Titans almost beat him a couple weeks ago. I know it wasn't with Stroud, but hey, you never know. AFC North type of game, divisional game. CJ Stroud might be a little rusty coming back after missing a few weeks. And then Bengals over Chiefs. I've seen mixed rooting interest on this one. Some people say we want the Chiefs over the Bengals. I think the Bengals over the Chiefs makes more sense because we have the tiebreaker over the Bengals, so we don't really need to worry about them. I guess we would want Chiefs over the Bengals if we were to lose. But if we win, I think we want Bengals over Chiefs. But yeah, let me see what you guys said about who do you think will start for next week. All right, most of you guys are saying no, not Kenny, Mason. 88% for Mason. Kenny with 13%. I'll check in with you guys before I get into this preview. How's everyone doing today on a Wednesday? How's everyone's Christmas? I'm so happy X Concepts brought this up. Yeah, I tweeted it out. He says, off topic, but did you see Gunner fumbled again for the Giants last game? He can't help himself, dude. I'm over at my cousin's house, and I'm like, Gunner's in, man. I can't believe the Giants still have him. I thought they cut him, but I guess they brought him back. And I was like, all right, watch he fumbles this punt. Watch, it's going to be a fumble. He actually did it. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. With how his stint ended with the Steelers and all of his ball security issues, he's got to figure he's on his last leg in the NFL. And the one thing he's got to do is just protect the ball. That's it. You can maybe hang around for a couple more years in the league. If you just do that. But then, yeah, he fumbles the punt. I think, didn't the Giants pick it back up? But I was just amazed. I said it as a joke. I was like, there's no way. There's no way he's going to actually fumble this again. But he actually did. Good thing the Steelers got rid of him, man. Yeah, I saw this too. X Concepts 1 brings up Rashawn Evans was cut after a drug charge. Wonder what happens there. Yeah, I don't know. TG actually texted me about that. He was like, you think we should have some interest in him? I don't know. It seems like it's too late in the season, and for him to get cut for that, I don't think the Steelers would be on board right now. I don't. I say Reuben Foster. If we need another linebacker, let's go Reuben Foster. X Concepts 1 says, I wanted him before that news. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I think it's doubtful at this point that the Steelers would have any serious consideration for Rashaan Evans. X Concepts 1 says, Minka might play this week at least, which is huge. Yeah. X Concepts 1, big shout out to you too. Just read like your last 4 or 5 chats there. But yeah, I'll go over injuries real quick. We got Minka listed at limited. Trenton Thompson limited, which ain't bad. We'll get another safety back, potentially 2 safeties back. Minka, the more important guy between the two. Landon Roberts officially listed as out. But outside of them, we're not too banged up with the guys that are at least active. You know what I mean? Obviously, we got guys that are out for the season. Kazee's on the suspension. But we're starting to get relatively healthy. We're getting there. If we could pull out this dub, get almost the full arsenal back for this last game, potentially the playoffs, we might be in good shape. And then if the offense keeps playing how they did against Cincy and Mason keeps lighting it up, we got a chance, man. Look out. Getting hot at the right time. But yeah, let me get into this Steelers-Seahawks preview. One of the things I noticed about this game and about these teams, we are very, very similar. Very similar. Like the type of teams that can beat anyone at any time, but then also lose to anyone at any time in any type of fashion as well. Like bad blowouts, right? Seahawks are capable of that. Obviously, we have shown we are capable of that too. And both teams have a lot of talent, top to bottom. On offense, defense, there are very talented guys, talented young players on both of our teams, but just haven't been able to put it all together this season, as we both sit at 8-7 right now. And just the fact, too, if you look at a lot of these Seahawks games, they have been close. They have come down to the wire. They'll pull out these games by the skin of their teeth. Geno right now leads the league in game-winning drives, and then you just saw last week when Drew Lock was in there, delivered a game-winning drive against the Eagles. What have the Steelers been known for up to this point? Just keep the game close. Offense looks ugly as hell the first half or the first 3 quarters. As long as it's close, fourth quarter Kenny time, clutch Kenny time. The Steelers will miraculously somehow pull it out. And it was looking good. We were sitting there at 7-3, 7-4 at one point. And then injuries happened. Poor quarterback play by Mitch happened. And yeah, we're at 8-7. Both have had bad losing streaks. Both teams have had bad losing streaks. Seahawks were just coming off of a 4-game losing streak a couple weeks ago. And then we obviously just came off of a 3-game losing streak. Another similarity is both teams have less points for than they do points against. So we are being outscored in total throughout the course of the season, yet we sit here with a winning record. Crazy the similarities, huh? Crazy. So it should be a good game. Both teams have Hall of Fame coaches, Pete Carroll, Mike Tomlin, always going to be in the mix. We got to go out to Seattle, West Coast trip. They got a good fan base, the 12th man. So it's going to be a good one. It absolutely will be. Now, what I'm thinking, I got like 2 big thoughts, one for offense and one for defense. I'll start with defense. And one of my big questions is, are we just going to go zone just like we did against Cincy? It probably would be the smart play with how we're banged up in the secondary. And I don't know if that would change if we get Minka back, if we get Trenton Thompson back. I don't know how much that would play a factor because they just got good dudes. They got talented dudes. Like not only with Fant at tight end, but then they're 3 receivers, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and also Tyler Lockett. Those are 3 good guys. I trust JPJ to mirror one of them, most likely DK Metcalf. That would be the smart move. But then you got Pat P, Levi Wallace. Do we want them man coverage on Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith? I don't like that for us. So we might just have to play zone and not give up the big play because the Seahawks, one of their keys to pulling out some of these games is just big passing plays. I think they're 8th in the league. I Googled this stat. I hope it's an accurate stat because they're 8th in the league in big time pass plays. I don't know how you categorize that, but they're 8th in the league. I think they have 29 of them for the season. I think we just got to keep a lid on it, man. I think we got to play deep. Don't give up the big play. Make the Seahawks execute. Series in, series out. Move the ball down the field. And then lock up in the red zone. I think that's our best chance. That should be our strategy as a defense. And I'm thinking it doesn't matter whether or not Minka or Thompson are going to be back or not. I think that's probably what we should do either way. That might be the best approach. And then for offense, Seahawks got some good corners, man. Tariq Woolen, Witherspoon, it's looking like he's going to be back. They got some dudes at safety. What their big weakness is the ground game. Like, remember how I was talking about the Colts, how they have, like, whenever we were going into that matchup, they had, like, it was like 7 or 8 games in a row where they gave up at least 100 on the ground. Seahawks, very similar. The last 5 games they've given up. This is back at week 12. They gave up $169. Week 13, 136. Week 14, 173. Week 15, 178. Week 16, just last week against the Titans, they gave up 162 on the ground. Now, I know Derrick Henry is really good, but the Titans offense as a whole isn't dynamic. They were without Levis. They got Tannehill in there. You know they're going to run the ball. To still give up 162 on the ground like that just tells me you're not good against the rush. So I say we give the rock to Najee. We give the rock to Jaylen Warren. See what they can do. Control the clock. I think that'll tone things down in a hostile environment that is Seattle Stadium. And it will limit things for whatever quarterback's out there. Again, I still think it's Mason, but it'll limit exposure for them to negativity. It's simple as that. Now, I do think Mason and Kenny both take care of the ball in their own right. I don't think they need the extra running and all that stuff. They know how to take care of the ball. They're smart with it. But it's only going to help. It's not going to hurt if we're running the ball good. It's going to open things up for the passing game where you can not only be smart with it, take some calculated risk, but hey, sometimes, maybe take a deep shot here or there. It'll open things up. So, yeah, I think that's the key on offense. That's what I'm going to be looking for. Seahawks really aren't that good on the ground, defending the ground. And then defense, it's those receivers, man. It's those receivers because they're all right in the run game. Kenneth Walker. They got that little 2-back set with him and the other Zach. What's his name? I'm going to botch up his name. Charbonnet. I botched that up. I'm sorry. But, yeah, they got 2 decent running backs, but they ain't blowing out the league this year. They ain't going like crazy like that. I thought they would be doing better, but they're not. I'm more worried about the big pass play, the breakout play that we got to witness happen against us last week with T. Higgins. Let's not give that up. We can't do that. We can't afford to do that because I think this is going to be a close one. It will be. The last thing I had, and I think this is just like a funny little prop because we got a little revenge factor with this game going up against Devin Bush. Also Artie Burns, but mainly I want to talk about Devin Bush here. Stats for the season. He's got 13 combined tackles, 8 solo tackles. And the other reason it's that high is because he played a little bit last week and was able to pad the stats because before his game in week 16, Miles Jack in one game coming off the couch had better production than Devin Bush for the full season. Miles Jack's one game against Cincy was better than Devin Bush's whole season up to this point out in Seattle. Because Jack had 6 combined tackles, 3 solo tackles, and 1 sack against Cincy. D. Bush was not doing that up until last week, but he padded the stats a little bit. He was able to get it a little bit better than Miles Jack, although it's arguable because Devin Bush doesn't have a sack like Miles Jack. I just feel like that would be an hilarious prop for a sportsbook to do. Like, even if Jalen Smith got called up, like, that'd be hilarious. Who has the better stat line for this game? Jalen Smith or Devin Bush? Jalen Smith's first game as a Pittsburgh Steeler, basically coming off of the couch like Miles Jack. Would he put up better production than D. Bush? Miles Jack versus Devin Bush? I feel like Miles Jack would be the big-time favorite in that because he played a lot of snaps for us last week. He played like 70% of the snaps, and we're going to need him to do that this week. But it'd be fun if we called up Jalen Smith and there was a prop. Who has better stats, Jalen Smith or Devin Bush? But, yeah, I think most Steeler fans aren't really surprised with what D. Bush is putting out there in Seattle. We got to see it firsthand here in Pittsburgh, and is why he's not here anymore. X Concepts 1. Would you rather go against Locke or Geno? I would rather go against Locke. I think that would help us more because Geno Smith is their starter. I think he's just like the flat out better quarterback. He's more consistent. He's a Pro Bowler last year. But Locke, he had a nice couple games there. The nice game-winning drive against the Eagles. He's just more streaky to me, which is why I would rather play him. Geno's more consistent. There's a reason they paid him what they paid him while Locke has been QB2 this whole time. Yeah, he could do some stuff. Locke obviously has the arm talent, but he's too inconsistent. It would help the Steelers if we went up against them. So that's my answer. What's your answer? X Concepts 1 says they will 100% attack middle of the field all day. Who are you talking about, us or them? Either or, really. Either or, probably both. Yeah, because we're hurting at inside linebacker. I would understand that. I definitely would. X Concept says Jaylen Warren has been getting majority of the snaps lately. 40 for Warren, 20 for Najee in the last game. And both played well in those roles. Warren's block was insane, and Najee's yards after contact helps keep third and short. That's interesting. I didn't notice that stat. Because Najee's still getting more touches. Huh. You want to talk about predictability then? Basically, when Najee's out there, he's getting the ball. That's what those stats tell me. Because he got more touches than Warren last game. He had like 70 yards on the ground. X Concepts 1 says they'll attack us, but we need to attack Bush. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, because he was playing last week. That doesn't. Yeah, Jordan Brooks is a little bit banged up, so we'll see how much D. Bush plays in this one. If he does, we know what to do. The scouting report's out on D. Bush. C9S says I'd like to put in some long scoring drives together and keeping the ball out of their offense's hands. Yep. Oh, yep. Great final question. Right before we wrap this up. C9S says score prediction. Deke, you guys drop your score predictions too. I'm going to go. Honestly, I might go with the same score as last week. And I was wrong on my score prediction, right? In that the Steelers won. Then I think I said 23-17. I'm going to go 23-17. I think Mason should start this game. I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's a matchup between two solid teams, two solid coaches, talented teams, and two type of teams that are always in the playoff mix and are currently in the playoff mix where this is like a do or die game for both sides, both parties. It's going to be a good one, man. It's definitely going to be a good one. Now, the unfamiliarity is going to be interesting. I think for both sides. I think there might be like a feeling out process in the first quarter of just like what each team's doing. Because when's the last time we played Seattle? That was 2 years ago. It's not a frequent opponent, being that they're an NFC West team. Typically only happens every 4 years. But we did sneak in a matchup against them. It was in Ben's last year, right? It was at home. We ended up winning that one. That was against Geno Smith when Russell Wilson was hurt. And then before that, I think it was the Mason game. Mason's first appearance in the regular season as a Steeler back in 2019. Yeah, full circle moment right here. I'm going 23-17 Steelers. If Mason, I think either quarterback, whatever quarterback plays, both of them keep it clean. I think we do well on the ground, at least over 100 total. And defense holds on tight. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but I think we hold on tight. I think we get some red zone stops. They might be able to move the ball on us, but ultimately we get the dub. C9S is going to be a fun one. Two long tenure coaches with similar records and teams. 28-24 Steelers. There you go. All right, you got a little bit of a shootout. I wouldn't mind that. Little Mason versus Geno shootout. That'd be kind of cool. Two guys that were counted out. You want to go back to the similarities? I was talking about similarities between the teams. If Mason plays, similarities between quarterbacks. Two quarterbacks that were counted out were early round draft picks. Geno was a second rounder for the Jets. Mason, third rounder here. Got some opportunities early on. Became outcast. Relegated to the bench. Not really thought of as being starters again. Geno gets his opportunity last year. He runs with it. Now Mason this year. Let's see what he does. But yeah, that's it for the stream, guys. Appreciate you showing up. Stay chilling. I will be back New Year's Eve post game. Bringing in the new year. We'll recap the Steelers-Seahawks game right here live on Bleach Report. I will see you guys then. But until then, stay chilling.